All right, guys, continuing on with our right triangle trigonometry. So we are expanding on what we did with our trig ratios. So in the last video, we talked about using sine, cosine, and tangent to find the side of a triangle. We can also use sine, cosine, and tangent, those ratios, to find a missing angle. So in my example right here, I've got this triangle, PTY, and it gives me one side as 100, and it gives me another side, and it tells me that it's 41. So what it wants me to do is find the angles. Now, this problem can go two very different ways depending on which angle I choose to use first, because my ratios are going to change. So I am going to start by with angle P, this angle right here. I want to know what that angle is. So I'm going to label my triangle based on this angle P right here. So that means this will be my hypotenuse, which I guess it would have anyway, right? 41 is going to be the opposite. 100 is going to be the adjacent, all right? Now, when I'm looking right here at angle P, I know the adjacent and I know the opposite. I don't know the hypotenuse, so I don't care about the hypotenuse. I know the adjacent and the opposite. So that tells me that I'm going to use tangent, because tangent uses opposite and adjacent. Now, when I write my equation, the tangent of some angle, remember, I've got to put an angle right there. Don't skip that step. In this case, my angle is P. The tangent of that angle P is the opposite 41 divided by the adjacent 100. Opposite over adjacent. Now, I have an equation. I have one variable. Now all I have to do is get that variable by itself. Now, if this had said something like 50 multiplied by P equals 41 over 100, when you did your railroad tracks, how do you get rid of the 50? Is by using divide by 50. You do the opposite of that symbol right there. That's called an inverse operation, right? Now, to get rid of tangent, this P is stuck inside of the tangent. I can't just divide by tangent, because tangent by itself, I can't just divide by tangent. There has to be a number associated with it. So that's not how I get rid of the tangent. The way that I get rid of the tangent is by doing the opposite of tangent, and that is called tangent inverse. And it looks like this, tangent to the -1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, it's just like my railroad tracks. To get rid of tangent, I'm going to tangent -1 both sides. Now, what that looks like mathematically, the tangent and the inverse tangent cancel out, so I'm left with P is equal to the right-hand side. I took the tangent inverse of 41 over 100. I took the tangent inverse, not the tangent of 41 over the 100, the tangent inverse of 41 over 100. So on my calculator to do that, if you noticed right here, you've got the tangent button. Well, right above the tangent button in blue is a tangent with a little -1. That's the inverse tangent button. So if I hit second and tangent, I get tangent to the -1. And all I do is put the 11 over, wow, I totally just made up those numbers. I'm supposed to be doing inverse tangent of 41 divided by 100. When I hit enter, it tells me 22.29. So P equals 22.29. And remember, P is an angle. So on my calculator, if I plug in the inverse tangent button, if I do tangent inverse and then a number, the answer that I get is going to be an angle. If in my calculator, if I plug in a tangent with a number after it, the answer that I'm going to get is a side of the triangle. All right? So tangent gives me lengths. Tangent inverse gives me angles of my triangle. So let's go through a couple of these really quick. Find the value of x, round to the nearest degree. All right, so it tells me what angle. I'm working with this angle right here. So when I label, here's my hypotenuse, here's my opposite, here's my adjacent. So I have opposite and adjacent, which means I'm going to be using tangent again. So my equation says the tangent of some x angle is equal to the opposite 8 divided by the adjacent 5. Opposite over adjacent. Now, to get rid of tangent, I have to take the inverse tangent of both sides. So my x is going to equal the inverse tangent of 8 divided by 5. So on my calculator, I do second tangent, 8 divided by 5. And I get 57.99, and it wants me to round to the nearest degree. So that's going to be, what, 58 degrees? X is going to be 58 degrees. All right? Number 6, it gives me an X, and it wants me to find the sides of the triangle. So let's label them. Across from the 90, there's my hypotenuse. Across from my X, there's my opposite. Next to the X, there's my adjacent. So this time, I get the hypotenuse and the adjacent, which tells me I'm going to use cosine. Remember SOHCAHTOA. So the cosine of X is equal to the adjacent, which is 9, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 13. So cosine of X equals 9 over 13. To get rid of cosine, I do inverse cosine. So X is going to equal inverse cosine of 9 over 13. So on my calculator, just like inverse tangent, right here, the cosine button, right above it, second cosine, I get inverse. And I forgot my numbers already. 9 over 13. So 9 divided by 13. Hit enter, 46.18, and it wants me to round to the nearest degree. So that's just going to be 46 degrees. So sine, cosine, tangent can help you find the sides of the triangle, and it can also help you find the angles of a triangle.